You can't change what you won't confront. That's the plain truth, and it's one that many people avoid because it's uncomfortable. But discomfort is often the beginning of transformation. A bad habit doesn't start off as destructive. It usually begins as something small, innocent even. A little procrastination here, a skipped workout there, a quick snack late at night, or maybe a white lie to get out of a difficult situation. But over time, these small acts compound into powerful routines that shape our identity. The moment we stop recognizing them, or worse, justify them, we surrender control. We allow the habit to grow roots, deep ones, and once that happens, it becomes a part of our daily life. There's a common temptation to ignore the little things. After all, it's just a cigarette after a stressful day. It's just another 30 minutes of scrolling on your phone. It's just a bit of gossip at work. But when those little things become daily things, and those daily things become lifestyle patterns, they start to define you. And what's most dangerous isn't the habit itself, it's our unwillingness to admit that we have one. You can't win a battle you won't admit you're fighting. If you don't acknowledge the war, you can't prepare for it. Denial becomes the silent assassin. It's not the noise of failure that defeats most people. It's the quiet, creeping decay of habits they pretend aren't there. Many people become professional excuse makers. It's just how I am. Everyone does it. It's not hurting anyone. These phrases are like armor for the ego. They protect your self-image, but they also protect the habit. And the longer the habit is protected, the harder it is to change. The first and hardest step in breaking any bad habit is simply saying, "This is a problem, not later, not when it gets worse, now." You have to look in the mirror and be brutally honest, not cruel, not judgmental. Just honest. What are you doing that's costing you your potential? What behavior, no matter how small, is eroding your discipline, your health, your focus, or your relationships? You don't need someone else to point it out. Deep down, you already know. There's a small, persistent voice inside you that whispers when you're off course, but most people drown it out. They turn up the volume of distraction, TV, social media, noise, so they don't have to hear the truth. Facing your habit means facing yourself. It means asking hard questions. It means observing your own patterns like a detective. Not to blame, but to understand. Why do you do what you do? What triggers it? Is it boredom, stress, insecurity? The moment you stop pretending everything is fine and start noticing when you're triggered, where it happens, who you're with, that's when the power shifts. You can't eliminate what you can't identify. And you can't change what you continue to defend. Some people are so committed to the image they've built that they won't admit their habits are hurting them. The businessman who claims he's just driven, but he's really addicted to work to escape family responsibilities. The student who says they work well under pressure, but they've normalized procrastination and panic. The parent who says they're just tired, but they're avoiding hard conversations with their kids. These are just stories we tell ourselves to avoid the truth, but stories don't break habit. Truth does. You don't need a grand plan on day one. You just need honesty. Sit down with a pen and paper and write out your recurring habits. The things you do without thinking, the things you regret after doing, the behaviors that lead to guilt, shame, or wasted time. Don't filter it. Don't justify it. Just write it. You might be surprised how much you've normalized. And once it's on paper, you've taken the first step from avoidance to awareness. Awareness is power. Once something is in the light, it can't control you the same way. But as long as you keep it hidden, keep telling yourself it's not a big deal, it keeps growing in the dark. That's where bad habits thrive, in darkness, in secrecy, in denial. They lose strength the moment they're exposed to truth. And this truth isn't just about behavior, it's about identity. When you confront a bad habit, you're not just changing an action. You're changing a belief that says this is just who I am, or I can't help it. That belief has to be challenged. You are not your habit. You are not your past. You are what you decide to confront and change. The biggest breakthroughs in life don't come from motivation or inspiration. They come from awareness, from the quiet realization that if I keep doing this, I won't become who I want to be, that if I let this behavior continue, I'm setting fire to my future one small spark at a time. And sometimes you don't need a loud wake-up call, you just need a moment of clarity, a moment where you say, I'm not going to lie to myself anymore. Too many people waste years avoiding that moment. They build lives around convenience and comfort, all while their potential decays behind the scenes. Bad habits don't just cost you time or energy, they cost you belief. Every time you repeat a bad habit, you reinforce a message in your mind. This is what I do. And the more you repeat it, the more it becomes who you think you are. That's why confronting it is so essential. When you name the habit, you start to separate yourself from it. You're no longer a slave to it. You're an observer of it, and once you observe something clearly, you can begin to change it. It's also important to remember that confronting a habit doesn't mean eliminating it overnight. It simply means choosing to stop pretending, to stop justifying, to stop excusing. It's about shifting your mindset from one of passivity to one of responsibility, because you are responsible for your choices, even the automatic ones, especially the automatic ones. And responsibility is where freedom begins. Most people aren't stuck because they lack discipline. They're stuck because they're unwilling to look their behavior in the eye and call it what it is. They want change without challenge. They want progress without pain, but growth doesn't work that way. You grow by leaning into the discomfort, by shining light on the things you'd rather ignore, and by saying, this isn't who I want to be anymore. And make no mistake, this is hard. It's easier to scroll, to snack, to stay silent. It's easier to stay in familiar patterns than to face unfamiliar truths. But ease is a liar. What feels easy now often makes life harder later. And what feels hard now, the honesty, the awareness, the confrontation, makes life lighter and freer in the long run. When you avoid the truth, the habit owns you. When you confront the truth, you begin to own the habit. And once you own it, you can change it. Replace bad habits with intentional routines. That is the golden rule when it comes to real, lasting change. Most people try to eliminate bad habits by sheer willpower. Just force themselves to stop doing something. But nature doesn't like a void. If you remove something from your life, something else will take its place. And if you don't choose what that something is, chances are your old habit, or something just as destructive, will come creeping back in. The key isn't just to stop what's wrong. The key is to start what's right. Fill the gap. Give your mind, your hands, your time something better to do. That's how transformation takes root. Let's say your bad habit is wasting hours on your phone, scrolling through content that adds no value. You can't just throw your phone in a drawer and expect your life to improve. The brain seeks stimulation. If you don't intentionally provide a new source, like a book, a walk, a meaningful task, your brain will find its way back to that phone. The same thing happens with food. If you stop eating junk food but don't plan what you'll eat instead, your hunger and your habits will eventually lead you right back to the pantry. Simply removing the negative doesn't fix the problem. It just makes you aware of the void. The solution is to install a better alternative. Intentional routines are powerful because they give structure to your time and direction to your energy. And routines don't have to be complex. In fact, the simpler they are, the more likely you'll stick to them. Replacing a bad habit isn't about grand gestures. It's about replacing one decision at a time. Instead of hitting snooze 10 times in the morning, get up and drink a glass of water. Instead of reaching for a sugary snack, reach for fruit or protein. Instead of mindlessly turning on the TV, open a notebook and write down your thoughts. These actions seem small, almost insignificant, but they are foundational. Over time, the small choices become default choices, and that's when change becomes identity. But let's not pretend it's automatic. The beginning is the hardest. Your old habits are like deeply worn paths in your brain. Walking away from them takes conscious effort. The new routine won't feel natural at first. It'll feel forced, but that's exactly how new habits are born, through repetition and intention. You don't brush your teeth because it's exciting. You brush them because it became routine. That's the goal. To make what's good for you so normal that it no longer feels like a battle. There's also something profoundly powerful about designing your routines ahead of time. Don't leave your day up to chance. Don't hope you'll make the right decision when the moment comes, because if you're tired, stressed, distracted, guess what you'll default to? The old behavior. That's why intentionality is key. Set a plan. Know what you're going to do when the craving hits, when the temptation shows up, when the old habit knocks. Planning weakens impulse. Preparation defeats chaos. If your bad habit is staying up too late, watching shows, your new routine might be setting a bedtime, turning off screens an hour early, reading a chapter of a book, and putting your phone in another room. It sounds simple, but simple is sustainable. Another critical point is identity alignment. You can't just change behavior, you have to change the way you see yourself. You don't want to just act like a healthy person. You want to become one. You don't want to just act productive. You want to see yourself as someone who values discipline and focus. That shift starts when your routines reflect who you want to be. So when you replace a bad habit with an intentional one, remind yourself why you're doing it. This isn't just a new behavior, it's evidence of a new you. Every time you act differently, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. You also have to make the new routine attractive and accessible. If you replace your habit with something you dread, it won't last. If you hate running, don't try to force it just because it burns calories. Find movement you enjoy. If reading feels like a chore, start with audiobooks. Meet yourself where you are, not where you wish you were. Make the good habit easy to begin. Remove friction. If you want to start journaling, leave the journal on your pillow so you see it before bed. If you want to exercise in the morning, lay out your workout clothes the night before. These tiny environmental cues help make the new behavior automatic. And once it's automatic, it's no longer a fight. It's a flow. Another trap people fall into is all or nothing thinking. They mess up once and feel like it's all over. But that's not how progress works. Replacing bad habits doesn't mean being perfect. It means being persistent. You'll slip, you'll forget, you'll get lazy. But if your new routine is rooted in purpose and designed with intention, you can always return to it. One bad day doesn't erase the habit. What matters is not the occasional failure. It's the commitment to get back on track. Momentum is built through return, not perfection. Community can also play a powerful role. Surround yourself with people who practice the routines you want to build. If you're trying to replace gossip with growth, spend time with people who talk about ideas, not people. If you're replacing negativity with gratitude, connect with those who see the good in life. Habits are contagious. If you're constantly around others who live intentionally, you'll be pulled in that direction almost naturally. Let your environment reflect your values, and your habits will follow. There's also something to be said about logging your behavior. When you track what you do, you become aware of patterns, and awareness drives change. Keep a simple habit tracker. Mark an X at every time you complete your new routine. Over time, those marks form a visual story, evidence that you're moving forward. It keeps you honest. It keeps you motivated. And it reminds you that change isn't magic, it's math. One intentional action, repeated consistently, equals transformation. And remember, no one else can do this for you. The decision to replace a habit is deeply personal. It's not about what others think. It's about what you value, what kind of life you want, what kind of legacy you want to leave. Every intentional routine is a brick in the foundation of that future. You don't need to do it all at once. Just start one habit, one decision, one new pattern. Do it with purpose. Do it with focus. Do it because your future depends on it. Consistency beats intensity. It's a principle that governs real growth, real change, and real achievement. The world is filled with people who try hard for a day, who show up once with energy, who make bold declarations about what they are going to do. But success doesn't respond to sudden bursts. It responds to steady rhythm. A man can go to the gym for 5 hours in one day and see no change, but if he goes for 30 minutes a day, every day, over the course of a year, now you'll start to see the results. That's the power of consistency. It compounds. Intensity is seductive. It feels exciting. It feels like a breakthrough. You start something new and the energy is high. Motivation is flooding your system. You write out your plans, you set your goals, you post about your journey. But what happens when the motivation fades? What happens when the feelings disappear? That's where most people stop. They wait for the energy to return before they act again, and they wait too long. The result? They live in a cycle of strong starts and weak finishes. But those who understand consistency don't rely on motivation. They rely on routine. They know that showing up daily, even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when no one is watching, builds something far more powerful than hype. It builds character. And character is what sustains action when passion runs dry. The greatest transformations don't come from extraordinary effort on one extraordinary day. They come from small, intentional actions repeated over time. Like a sculptor shaping stone, you don't need to strike hard. You just need to strike often. In every area of life, consistency is the differentiator. In business, it's not the person with the best idea who wins. It's the person who executes daily, who follows through, who does the small tasks without skipping. In relationships, it's not the grand romantic gesture once a year that makes the difference. It's the daily attention, the thoughtful message, the consistent presence. In health, it's not starving yourself for a week or working out until you collapse. It's eating right most days, moving your body regularly, sleeping on time. These are not intense acts. They are consistent ones. The challenge is that consistency isn't glamorous. It doesn't always feel exciting. No one claps when you wake up early to study. No one throws you a parade for drinking water instead of soda. There's no applause for writing a page a day or reading 10 pages of a book. And yet, over time, these are the actions that change your life. The world may not see the small efforts, but they are the seeds of every great result. Consistency also builds trust. When you keep doing what you say you'll do day after day, you start to believe in yourself. And that belief becomes confidence, not the loud kind, but the quiet kind, the kind that comes from proof. You don't need to hype yourself up when you've built a track record. You can look back and say, I've done this before. I've shown up. I've built this brick by brick. That self-trust becomes your anchor when doubt tries to creep in. A big mistake many people make is overcommitting in the beginning. They want to change everything at once. Start a new diet, launch a business, wake up at 5 a.m., meditate for an hour, journal, exercise, and take cold showers, all starting Monday, but intensity like that burns out fast. It's better to start with something small you can maintain. 5 push-ups a day, 10 minutes of journaling, one habit repeated daily is worth more than 10 habits abandoned by Friday. Another reason consistency beats intensity is that it allows for adaptation. When you do something daily, you begin to understand it. You see what works and what doesn't. You adjust your approach. You learn faster. Intense action might give you a temporary high, but consistent action gives you long-term insight. It gives you patterns, feedback, rhythm. You grow because you're immersed in the process, not just visiting it occasionally. Consistency also builds resilience. Life will throw obstacles your way. Distractions, setbacks, discouragement, bad days. But when you've built a habit of showing up, you're less likely to be derailed. You might be tired, but you still show up. You might feel off, but you still do something. And over time, that discipline creates strength. You learn that progress isn't about feeling good every day, it's about doing what's necessary whether you feel good or not. There's also a deep sense of freedom in consistency. When your days have rhythm, when your actions are rooted in routine, you spend less energy deciding what to do. Your system carries you. You don't have to negotiate with yourself. You don't ask, should I do this today? You just do it. Decision fatigue goes down, clarity goes up, and momentum builds. That's how high performers operate. Not with more talent, but with more structure. People often ask how to stay motivated. The real answer is don't. Stay committed. Motivation is unreliable. It changes with your mood, with the weather, with your energy levels. But commitment is rooted in choice. When you commit to a process, when you make a decision in advance, you're no longer asking whether you feel like it. You're simply honoring your word, and the more you honor your word, the more powerful that word becomes. Even in creativity, consistency wins. Writers don't wait for inspiration to strike. They write every day. Musicians practice daily, not just when they're feeling inspired. Excellence doesn't come from waiting for the perfect moment. It comes from showing up consistently enough that the perfect moment eventually shows up too. And if you really think about it, every bad habit you've ever had was built through consistency. You didn't become lazy in a day. You didn't lose focus overnight. It was repeated actions, small ones, unnoticeable at first, that shaped your current reality. So if consistency built your problems, consistency can also solve them. It's a double-edged sword. The same force that works against you when used carelessly becomes your greatest ally when used with intention. Consistency isn't exciting at first. It's boring, it's repetitive, but that's the point. Because while others quit in search of the next exciting thing, you're still here, still building, still moving forward, and in the end, that steady pace wins. Not because you were the loudest or the fastest or the most talented, but because you were the most consistent. Environment shapes behavior. Choose wisely. The surroundings you live in, the people you interact with, the routines that fill your day, they all influence your actions, often more than you realize. People tend to think they make decisions independently, but more often than not, those decisions are shaped, nudged, and reinforced by the environment they exist in. Your habits, both good and bad, are not just personal choices. They are deeply tied to context, and if you want to change your behavior, you have to examine and often restructure your environment. Walk into a cluttered, noisy room, and it becomes harder to concentrate. Step into a clean, calm space, and suddenly clarity becomes possible. That's no accident. Your physical environment either promotes or disrupts your ability to perform. If your home is filled with distractions, temptations, or chaos, you will find it harder to maintain self-discipline. But if your space is ordered in a way that supports your goals, you find yourself effortlessly sticking to your habits, not because you're more disciplined, but because the environment makes it easier to succeed. The same goes for people. You become like the people you spend the most time with. Their beliefs, their standards, their daily habits, they seep into your thinking whether you want them to or not. Sit around complainers, and soon you'll see the world as something to whine about. Surround yourself with those who are driven, focused, and positive, and your mindset shifts accordingly. It's not about being influenced occasionally, it's about being shaped gradually. Influence doesn't often knock loudly. It whispers consistently, changing your expectations, shifting your standards, adjusting your vision of what's normal. Look at someone who is improving in life, getting in shape, becoming more disciplined, starting to achieve goals. If you examine closely, you'll often find that their environment changed first. They started spending time in new places. They started interacting with different people. They changed the inputs around them. They placed reminders of their goals in their workspace. They organized their kitchen. They changed their playlist. They redesigned their schedule. These small, almost invisible adjustments to their environment began producing very visible results. We like to believe that strong willpower is the answer to every problem, But even the strongest willpower can be worn down by the wrong environment. If you're trying to eat healthy and your kitchen is filled with junk food, you're asking for trouble. If you're trying to stay focused but your phone is full of notifications and distractions, you're fighting an uphill battle. It's not that you're weak, it's that you're setting yourself up to lose. The smartest move is not to resist temptation constantly, but to remove it completely. When the environment supports your goals, the right behavior becomes the path of least resistance. It's the same in your professional life. Work in an environment where no one values growth, and you'll start shrinking without realizing it. Work in a team where excellence is the standard, and you'll stretch yourself to meet that standard. Culture matters. Atmosphere matters. If your environment encourages laziness, negativity, or mediocrity, you'll begin to adopt those qualities subconsciously. But if your environment promotes accountability, discipline, and progress, you'll rise to meet that energy. Not because you have to, but because it becomes the new normal. Think about your digital environment too. What you see online, the content you consume, the voices you listen to, they all shape your thinking. If you constantly scroll through content that glorifies instant gratification, comparison, or drama, don't be surprised if your mind starts reflecting those patterns. But if you intentionally curate your feeds, follow voices that inspire growth, and consume knowledge that sharpens your mind, your thinking begins to shift. Your focus improves, your values deepen, and over time, that consistent input turns into consistent output. It's also important to recognize when an environment has expired its usefulness. Sometimes a place, a group, or a routine once served your growth, but now holds you back. Clinging to it out of comfort or loyalty can be costly. Growth often requires letting go of environments that no longer support your potential. That might mean leaving old friendships that no longer align with your values. It might mean changing your workplace, your city, or your habits. It's not always easy, but your environment is either elevating your standards or eroding them. Changing your environment isn't always about big moves. It starts with small changes. Rearranging your room so your goals are visible. Creating a workspace that promotes focus. Spending less time in draining conversations. Being deliberate about who you text, who you follow, what you watch, what you read. Even changing the lighting, the background noise, or the music you play during your work hours can shift your state of mind. These adjustments add up. They seem small, but over time, they rewire your brain toward better behavior. One of the most powerful ways to upgrade your environment is to become the type of person who brings order and purpose wherever they go. Don't wait for your surroundings to inspire you. Be the one who sets the tone. If you walk into a room and there's negativity, bring energy. If there's chaos, bring clarity. If there's laziness, bring discipline. Be the thermostat, not the thermometer. Set the temperature. Influence the environment rather than being defined by it. That's what leaders do. They shape their surroundings instead of adapting to mediocrity. Sometimes you have to disrupt your own comfort. If you find yourself stuck, ask yourself whether your current environment is keeping you there. What are you tolerating in your daily surroundings that's lowering your standards? Who are you giving access to your time and mind that no longer deserve it? What parts of your physical, social, or mental environment need to be cleaned up, rearranged, or replaced? These are tough questions, but the answers can change everything. Because once your environment changes, your energy shifts, your actions follow, your habits align, and the life you want begins to take form. Short-term pleasure often leads to long-term pain. This is one of the most deceptive patterns in human behavior, and yet it's repeated by people every single day. The lure of instant gratification is powerful. It feels good. It gives relief. It offers a momentary escape from stress, boredom, or discomfort. But the price we pay for that temporary satisfaction often shows up later, and when it does, it stays longer and hits harder than we expected. The problem is not the pleasure itself. It's the timing, the consequence, and the pattern it creates. When we chase what feels good now at the cost of what's right in the long run, we trade our future for a fleeting moment. People know this instinctively, but they often choose to ignore it. It's easier to reach for the cookie than to prepare a healthy meal. It's more comfortable to skip the workout and stay in bed. It's more convenient to binge a show than to sit down and study. The brain wants comfort, especially when it's tired, anxious, or overstimulated. And the world today is filled with tools and platforms that deliver pleasure instantly. Food, entertainment, likes, scrolling, dopamine. You don't even have to try, but easy doesn't mean good, and what's pleasurable now can become painful later. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you reinforce a pattern in your mind. That pattern becomes a habit. That habit becomes a lifestyle, and that lifestyle becomes a reality you may not even recognize until it's too late. It's how people wake up one day tired, overweight, broke, disconnected, and unfulfilled, not because of one big mistake, but because of 1,000 small ones, little decisions made every day based on what felt good in the moment. That's how short-term pleasure turns into long-term regret. The irony is that the things that bring real pleasure in life, health, growth, mastery, confidence, meaningful relationships, all require discomfort first. You don't get strong without strain. You don't build discipline without resistance. You don't grow without challenge. True satisfaction often begins in effort, not ease, but most people aren't taught this. They're taught to chase feelings, to avoid pain, to seek immediate results. So they live in cycles of starting and quitting, trying and escaping, hoping and giving up. And that cycle is built on one foundational choice: what feels good now versus what leads to something better later. When you indulge in short-term pleasure, you're often avoiding something deeper, a difficult task, an emotional trigger, a fear of failure. Instead of confronting it, you distract yourself. But the problem doesn't go away. It waits for you. And when it returns, it's usually bigger. Avoid a hard conversation today, and the distance in the relationship grows. Put off a financial decision, and the debt multiplies. Skip the workout, and your health declines. In the moment, the avoidance feels like relief, but later it turns into pressure. This is why people get stuck. They keep choosing temporary relief over permanent progress. They think they're escaping discomfort, but they're only postponing it. And when it comes back, it's heavier. There's always a cost, and the sooner you realize that, the sooner you start making decisions with a longer view. Short-term pleasure is seductive, but it's a liar. It promises happiness and delivers consequences. And over time, those consequences add up and create a version of life that you never intended to build. On the other hand, when you start choosing short-term discomfort for long-term gain, you build resilience. You learn to say no to things that don't serve your highest good. You train your mind to endure discomfort knowing that the reward is coming. Not now, but soon. It's a different kind of strength. It's the ability to delay gratification, to say, this feels good, but it's not good for me. Or this is hard, but it's leading somewhere worthwhile. That mindset is the foundation of discipline, and discipline is the gateway to freedom. People who succeed consistently are not those who never feel the pull of distraction or temptation. They're people who understand the cost of giving in. They have learned that skipping one workout isn't about the workout. It's about the message it sends to their mind. That message is, you can give up when it's hard. And if you give your mind that message enough times, it believes you. That's how habits are formed, so the people who win long-term make a different choice. They say no to the quick fix. They choose the harder path, not because they enjoy pain, but because they value what's on the other side of it. There's a principle called the pain of discipline versus the pain of regret. Discipline is hard, waking up early, saying no to distractions, staying focused, pushing through discomfort. It takes effort. But regret is worse. Regret carries weight. Regret looks back at years wasted, health lost, relationships broken, and dreams abandoned. Discipline may sting for a moment, but regret burns for years. That's the difference. One pain builds you, the other breaks you. You can test this in your own life. Think about a time you chose what felt good in the moment and paid for it later. Then think about a time you made a hard choice and were proud of it afterward. The contrast is clear. One brings guilt, the other brings confidence. One depletes you, the other elevates you. That's the power of long-term thinking. It turns decisions into investments. You're not just choosing what to do. You're choosing who to become. Long-term pain doesn't come from a single act. It comes from patterns, so the key is to break the pattern early. When you feel the pull toward the easy option, pause. Ask yourself what this choice is really costing you. Are you escaping something important? Are you reinforcing a pattern that weakens you? Are you trading a better future for a brief hit of pleasure? These are the questions that turn moments into crossroads. The ability to delay gratification is one of the greatest predictors of success. When you train your mind to focus on future rewards, you make better choices in the present. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to avoid every mistake, but you need to shift your pattern from chasing comfort to creating value, from seeking escape to embracing effort. That shift doesn't happen all at once. It happens one decision at a time. It also helps to reframe discomfort as a sign of progress. When you feel resistance, it means you're stretching. When it feels hard, it means you're building strength. The pleasure that comes after hard work is different. It's earned. It brings pride, not guilt. It lasts, not fades. That kind of pleasure strengthens you. It becomes a source of momentum, not shame. People often look at successful individuals and think they have more willpower or discipline, but often they simply have more clarity. They've experienced what short-term pleasure costs, and they've decided it's not worth it. So they build systems, routines, and mindsets that make the right choice easier. They still feel the pull of temptation. They've just trained themselves to resist it more often than they give in. Over time, that becomes identity. And identity is the most powerful driver of behavior. When you see yourself as someone who chooses long-term gain over short-term comfort, your actions start to reflect that belief. You stop asking, what feels good now, and start asking, what will feel right later. That's the shift that creates transformation. Your habits write your future. Take the pen back. Every day, whether you're aware of it or not, you are writing the next chapter of your life through your repeated actions. Not your intentions, not your dreams, not even your goals, but your habits. The things you do without thinking, the routines you've built over time, the default choices you make in quiet moments, those are the strokes of the pen on the page of your future. And if you don't take control of the pen, something or someone else will. A distracted mind, an old pattern, a social influence, an emotional trigger, they'll write the story for you. And you'll be left wondering how you ended up in a life you didn't intend to live. Habits are the invisible architecture of life. They shape your health, your finances, your relationships, your mindset. They determine how you react under pressure, how you handle opportunity, how you treat others, and how you treat yourself. But because they often operate beneath the surface, we forget how much power they hold. We underestimate them because they're small. Skipping a workout doesn't ruin your body overnight. Eating one bad meal doesn't destroy your health. Procrastinating for a day doesn't collapse your productivity. But every habit carries momentum, and that momentum grows stronger with each repetition. People want dramatic change, they want breakthroughs, they want instant results, but they overlook the daily behaviors that lead there. It's not the massive leap forward once a year that transforms your life. It's the small, deliberate step forward taken consistently, even when no one is watching. You are always reinforcing a story through your habits, the story of discipline or distraction, growth or stagnation, progress or procrastination. The question is, are you writing that story on purpose? The reason many people feel stuck in life is not because they lack ambition, it's because they've handed the pen over to autopilot. They've allowed convenience to dictate their choices. Wake up, check the phone, rush through the morning, get through the day, escape through entertainment, repeat. And then they wonder why they don't feel fulfilled. The truth is, nothing changes if your habits don't change. You can read all the books, set all the goals, listen to all the motivation, but if your daily behavior stays the same, your future stays the same. Taking the pen back means becoming intentional about your patterns. It means asking yourself what you do every day that shapes who you're becoming. It means stepping back and observing your life like an editor, not just a participant. What time do you wake up? What do you do in the first hour of your day? How do you speak to yourself when no one else is around? What do you eat, watch, read, and say? Who do you give your time and energy to? Every one of those answers is a sentence in your story, and you get to revise them if they're taking you in the wrong direction. It also means challenging the idea that your habits are fixed. You are not your patterns, you are the author of them. Just because you've done something for years doesn't mean you have to keep doing it. Habits can be rewritten, neural pathways can be changed, behavior can be reconditioned, but it takes awareness and effort. You have to disrupt the script, you have to interrupt the loop, and that begins with paying attention to your triggers, your emotions, your environments, the subtle forces that shape your habits without asking for permission. People often say they don't have time to change, but the truth is they don't realize how much time their current habits are costing them. Every moment spent in distraction is a moment not spent in creation. Every dollar wasted in impulse is a dollar not invested in the future. Every conversation spent in gossip is energy stolen from growth. Your habits are either building your life or breaking it down. There's no neutral. You're either moving forward or falling behind. That's why you have to take the pen back, not out of fear, but out of purpose. When you start rewriting your habits, it's not about overhauling everything in a day. That kind of change rarely sticks. It's about choosing one small habit that aligns with who you want to become and committing to it. Make it so small you can't fail. 1 glass of water in the morning. 5 minutes of reading, 1 positive message sent to someone you care about, 1 habit, 1 choice, 1 moment of alignment. These small wins are not insignificant, they're symbolic. They say to your brain, I'm in charge now. And every time you repeat that habit, you reinforce that identity. It's also important to remember that habits are not just about action, they're about identity. The goal is not just to read more books, it's to become a reader. The goal is not just to eat healthier meals, it's to become someone who values health. When your habits align with your identity, they stick. But if you try to build habits that conflict with how you see yourself, they fall apart. So you have to shift how you see yourself first. Stop saying, I'm lazy, or I've always been this way. Start saying, I'm someone who follows through. Or I'm building better patterns. Speak your new identity into existence through repetition, belief, and action. Another thing people overlook is how much their environment influences their habits. You can't build new patterns in old places without some resistance. If your home is full of distractions, you need to remove them. If your friends constantly reinforce negative habits, you need to create distance. If your schedule is chaotic, you need to simplify it. Taking the pen back means becoming the designer of your environment, not just the occupant. Make your surroundings work for you. Set your life up so the right choice is the easy choice and the wrong one becomes inconvenient. Tracking your habits can also help you reclaim authorship over your life. When you measure something, you manage it. Keep a journal, use a habit tracker, review your week, notice the patterns, celebrate the wins. Reflect on the losses. Progress is rarely a straight line, it's messy, but that's why consistency matters more than perfection. A missed day isn't failure, a skipped habit isn't defeat. What matters is returning, recommitting, and reminding yourself why you started. When you look ahead at the future you want, ask yourself what habits that version of you has already mastered. Then work backward. If the future version of you is financially free, what does their daily spending look like? If the future version of you is fit and healthy, what does their morning routine include? If the future version of you is focused, creative, and present, what do they do with their time? These aren't just habits, they're expressions of identity. They are the story you're choosing to write, one sentence at a time, one day at a time. Most people drift through life, letting habits form by accident. But when you live that way, you wake up one day wondering how you got where you are. The key is to write your story on purpose. Take control of the pen. Rewrite the pages that no longer serve you. Start a new chapter that reflects who you want to become. And remember that no one else gets to write this story but you. Your habits are the ink, your actions the letters, and your decisions the punctuation. The life you live tomorrow is being written by the habits you choose today.